Hello, welcome back to my channel. In this episode I'll be doing the genre book tag, originated by Harriet Rosie. So let's get cracking. Question number 1. Your favourite genres? Easy. Fantasy, travel and science. Fantasy is my main genre. I am pretty much always reading one fantasy book or another, but in addition to that, I particularly enjoy travel books by the likes of Bill Bryson, who is my second favourite author, and also science books, because who doesn't love science? Question number 2. Your least favourite genres? Again, very easy. Sport, religion, comics or graphic novels, and self-help books. Sport, I've never liked sport, I've never liked watching it, I certainly hated playing it when I was forced to at school. Comics and graphic novels, I just never got into them. I like to read dense prose. I don't like pictures with just a little bit of text. It's not my thing. It just doesn't float my boat. I've got nothing against comics and graphic novels per se, they're just not for me. Religion, I really don't like any form of organised religion. I find religion to be deeply troubling. I'm not going to get into a whole religious debate on this channel, but religion isn't my bag. I don't like religion, so as a result of not liking religion, I don't like reading about religion. Self-help books. This is slightly more interesting because my mother used to read lots and lots of self-help books, and as a result of her reading self-help books, I was put off. She was constantly quoting these mindless, inane, vapid bumper sticker sayings from these books, and it used to drive me crazy. I would want to have a proper conversation. I may have wanted to discuss something that was deeply personal, or something that was troubling me, or a problem or an issue that I was experiencing, an anxiety thing. I would be discussing it with my mother, and what I would receive back would be quotes from self-help books. So I'm a little bit triggered by self-help books. I think they're written by people who are making money off the backs of desperate people who are gullible and easily led and unable to think for themselves. Does that seem intolerant? I don't know. I'm triggered. I've had bad experiences as a result of self-help books, so I don't like them and I don't have any time for them. Question number 3. A genre you want to try? Romance, specifically romance by Barbara Cartland, but any other romance will do as well. It's a genre that I've never really delved into, but I'm kind of a romantic soul, and I enjoy romance films if they're good and intelligent and have some meat on their bones, some substance to them, and so I'm interested in the idea of delving into romance novels, and although Barbara Cartland may seem an odd choice, she's incredibly prolific. I don't know, she wrote about 60 or 80 books a second or something. I may be exaggerating slightly, but I know that she certainly churned out hundreds and hundreds of books. So I like the idea that if I enjoy the books, there are going to be plenty for me to read. And also I find her an interesting character. She was an absolute nutcase, a complete fruitcake. If you're unfamiliar with Barbara Cartland, I'm sure there will be some videos on YouTube of her in various interviews as an elderly lady with white hair sort of sticking up in a very bizarre hairstyle, and she was always dressed in pink sort of flouncy bizarre clothes and lots of makeup, ridiculous. So she put her makeup on with a palette knife, I think, and great big bushy false eyelashes. She was an extraordinary looking woman. She looked like a man in drag. Is that a cruel thing to say? She looked like something out of a British Christmas pantomime. She was a very strange looking woman and very eccentric and fascinating, but One of the most interesting things about her, which not a lot of people know, is that if I remember correctly, she was actually a fighter pilot. Or maybe not a fighter pilot, but she was definitely a pilot. She was kind of an Amelia Earhart type of person. She used to put on the funny leather thing with the flappity bits. Flappity? Is flappity a word? She would dress up in all the leather gear and put the leather helmet on and the goggles and go flying. She was a very interesting character, and I suspect that although her books have been very ridiculed over the years, I suspect that there might be something quite interesting in those, so I would like to read some Barbara Cartland. Question number 4. A genre you don't want to try. I refer you back to question 2. Sport, comics/graphic novels, religion or self-help. Question number 5. A genre you're not sure about. Sci-fi. This is an interesting one for me because my favourite genre is fantasy, and fantasy and sci-fi are nearly always bunched up together. It's usually sci-fi/fantasy on the top of the shelf at the bookshop, and I've never really understood why sci-fi and fantasy are bunched up together, because to me they are completely different genres, and they theoretically, the way my mind works, they appeal to completely different readers. However, I'm obviously wrong about that, because over the years those things have remained joined together, joined at the hip, science fiction and fantasy. I've only ever liked fantasy. I've never been able to enjoy a science fiction book. I've got a set of books which I consider to be fantasy. These are books that I absolutely loved when I was a teenager. They're the Thongor books. There's one missing from this set. I've got it somewhere. These are fantasy. I consider them to be fantasy, but if you look, there is a spaceship there. There is a metal craft that is clearly a flying machine, a spaceship of some type. I haven't read these books for so long that I can't actually remember all the details of it, but that's a science fiction element in what is otherwise, in my opinion, a full-on fantasy book. I think I got into these books because they had titties on the front and I was 13 years old, and 13-year-old boys do enjoy some titties. So yes, I think I got into these for the titties, but actually found them to be really riveting, enjoyable, good quality pulp fantasy from a bygone age. They probably don't stand up very well against modern fantasy, but when I was a 13-year-old boy, these were great fun. There's Thongor again, and there's the spaceship. There's very clearly a spaceship in these books. So I suppose the Thongor books are the closest I have ever got to reading sci-fi, and they are possibly a crossover between the two genres, but as a rule I like fantasy and I'm ambivalent about sci-fi. I'm going to put these back now. Question number 6. A genre blend that you love. Well, if I've understood the question correctly, then my answer is fantasy, historical and romance, and those are the 3 labels that I've placed on the Outlander books by Diana Gabaldon. There are probably many more genre labels that you could put on those books, because those are kind of genre-bending books, if that's the correct phrase. But the Outlander books I absolutely love. They're not fantasy specifically, but they're a little bit fantasy. If you consider the mere presence of a time travel theme as being sci-fi, then you could probably slap a sci-fi label on the Outlander books as well. But there is no machine involved and no science or technology involved. It's just magic, as far as I can tell. The time travel in the Outlander books is magic, and so for me that's in the realm of fantasy. But aside from the time travel angle, those books are mainly historical romance. They're the closest to romance I've ever read, and the reason, or one of the reasons, that I would like to get more into romance, because I absolutely love Outlander. I love the characters, I love the story, and I love the fact that the book can't really be clearly defined as any one specific genre. It's a mixture of genres and it works very well. Question number 7. A genre-defying book. As above, the Outlander books by Diana Gabaldon. They defy any genre. I think they're mostly historical romance, but with a strong element of fantasy thrown in, but lots of other stuff as well. They're just all-round thoroughly entertaining and engrossing books, and if the books are great, the television series, in my opinion, is even better. I love it. Wow. So that's it. That was the genre book tag, originally by Harriet Rosie. I hope I've done it justice. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy it, you know what to do. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I will see you next time. See you later.